Okay, this year is dedicated to Rachalei Bas Rav Chaim Tzvi, Pasuk Yudchet. Okay, so we just they could be saved. Han lo yadia leheve lach malka dila lokayach lo itana falchin l'tzem nizahava tiyekepta lo naskod. So they tell him very plainly what their plans are. They say that we are not going to do this. We're not going to bow down to this idol, and we're not going to bend to it. It's not going to happen. So they answered also, and I think that this is important to take notice of. They answered in unison, okay, that when they said we're not going to bow down to it, they were saying it as one voice, which shows that this is the voice of the Jews, not just the voice of the individual people who were in this circumstance. Okay, so we have to talk just for a moment about Mesiras Nefesh. People sometimes say, and what do you think about when you say Shema? So there are different thinkers who suggest thinking of different things. Okay, the Zohar will say, picture yourself in a situation where you could be Moser Nefesh for Hashem, where you could say, I'm part of your Achdus Hashem. There are others who concretize and says, at least for the moment that you say Shema, be Chanania, Mishael, and Azaria, where it's so clear to you that this world is Act 1, and that everything subsequent is more, and that your purpose in life is Kiddush Hashem. Another meditation is see yourself as David, okay, being absolutely sure that the one who created physical reality could cause Goliath to perish with 5 little stones. Okay, so you have to be there, and this is indeed where they were. They got to where they were. So from their perspective, in terms of what that said about them as humans, they won at this point. No matter what would happen afterwards, they won their battle. Beidian, Nevuchandetzar hit Malei Chema, and at that time, Nevuchandetzar was full of anger. V'tzelem pohi eshtanayu, and the form of his face changed. So the Gemara says when a person is angry, their face changes. Whatever godliness there is in their countenance can't be seen when they're angry. Al Shadrach, Meshach, V'Avadnego are these 3 people. Ane, he said, Vamar, and declared, Lemezela Atuna, Chad Shiva. He said that the flame should be stoked 7 more times. That would be necessary to stoke it. So, of course, you could say, what's the point of this? What's the point of having it seven times hotter than usual? In fact, it makes him look stupid in a certain sense. A fire can consume human flesh. So this takes us back to the flaw in his belief system. So let's go back to India for a moment. I saw, again on film, I saw the man who could walk on coals. Could he stay there for a half a year? Probably not. So why am I pointing this out? Could the guy who's hanging by his ankle stay there for not 2 weeks but 3 years? No, he'd starve. Midas HaGvura, as they see it, in the end is always finite. So what they see is what I would call, in our language, limited gods. So he understood that the spiritual fire of Chanania, Mishael, and Azaria might draw down a spiritual parallel. He understood this, and he was afraid of what the results would be. So this spiritual force that would be brought down now takes us into another possibility, which is how big a miracle could really happen. So there are people who are willing to say, well, miracles could happen, but not really big ones. So they'll believe, for instance, that an Israeli soldier can go into battle and missiles could be flying in every possible direction, and he is miraculously saved from all of this, just as he's, let's say, as actually did happen in this last war, where people bowed down for Baruch Hu and bullets flew over their heads. But they don't believe that the Jewish state could survive. They believe that miracles can happen for an individual, but they'll make unspeakable compromises because in their hearts they don't believe that God could cause the state to survive. They think they have to do it. This is the mentality that led to the expulsion from Gush Katif. This is similarly the mentality that every heretical movement within Judaism is always fed on. So the assimilationist movements, for instance, would say, we believe in miracles, we're the chosen people, we celebrate Pesach, we fast on Yom Kippur, but we can't survive